Once. Everyone will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Do our roll call. Dr. O'Neill.
Present.
Mr. Heater.
Present.
Mrs. Bales. Present. Mrs. Barnes-Griffin. Present. Mr. Irvin.
Present.
Mr. Lowe.
Present.
Okay. We are on to our spotlight. Coach, if you want to bring everybody in. Don't hide, don't hide. So for those watching at home this evening, Coach A.J. Bradley is here with his middle school track athletes who had a very successful season. So, Coach, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. Once again, my name is A.J. Bradley. Been to quite a few of these things lately, which is always a good thing. This time we're here to honor our track team. And I had reached out towards the end of our season to honor a few of our kids, because in middle school track is towards the end of the year. It's rough to keep kids out. You know, you got 13, 14-year-olds when it's 80, 90 degrees outside. The last thing they want to do is stay at school. But over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been able to build up a pretty good track team in South. And one of the things that they started 4 years ago was a middle school track, a state competition. And we've entered into that each year. And it's a pretty big thing, because to be accepted into this, you have to be one of the top 24 middle school athletes in the entire state. You have to submit your time, all of your information, all this has to be verified. And the first year they had it was 4 years ago, and we sent some kids there and medaled. 3 years ago, we qualified more kids, medaled. Last year, of course, we couldn't due to COVID. And then this year again, we were able to send 3 more kids. So every year we've been able to send multiple kids there. And not only just send kids there, but also bring home a medal every year. And this year, Miss Seals was able to go. Wait, come and say hi. And she was able to medal in the 200-meter hurdles, which is pretty awesome. It's our first time that we've ever had a medalist in that. And she was also our first female medalist as well, so that's pretty awesome. We had Miss Claire, who became our first 2-time female qualifier, all right, which is pretty awesome. Mr. Hayden Bradford qualified this year as well in the 2400, which is 1.5 miles for those of you, all right, which is pretty awesome. And to show you how the level of competition at this, he ran a personal best of 8 minutes and 29 seconds in 1.5 miles. And placed just outside of top 10. Okay, so this is a very, competitive middle school event. A lot of the times there and distances there, you'll see very similar to winning high school sectionals and placing at regionals. So our kids are going and they're competing there. And that was awesome. And I also want to say we had a smaller group this year due to COVID, but they still did great things. We went and we competed at a 16-team Marion Invitational where we placed 4th and 6th. We won a Union City Invitational. And we was in all of our meets. But the one thing that I really loved about this team, they're all good kids. We had no discipline issues, no academic issues. They show up every day, and they were small in number but mighty in heart, which is why they always performed well. And they rooted each other on. Some of the greatest things was seeing, like a distance person like Bradford run really well, then you see Claire and Seals go hug him in their sprinters. Or you got a little 6th grade Chloe Rios where she's standing like, step up here, Chloe. Okay, all 4 foot of her throwing like 64, 70 foot in the discus, which was great. And the kids going nuts, and just the way all the different events came together. Because in track, a lot of times you have your sprinters who go with their sprinters, the distance. It's kind of like 3 or 4 teams within a team, but not this group, all right, which was awesome. okay? And so I'm just glad you guys came here to acknowledge them and honor them because the stuff they did this year was really good. You know, and they really led the team because at middle school, those last 6 weeks of school, the kids are ready to go, you know, and they were a group of kids who really kept it, you know, on the ball. You know?
So, Coach, would your athletes be willing to come up to the podium, give us their name, and tell us their event?
I am sure they would. All right. We'll start right here, okay? Say your name and your events that you participated in.
Adrian Metcalf, shot put, discus, and 4x4. No,
Great.
4x1 relay.
Great.
My name is Reggie Reynolds. I did long jump, 4x4, 400, and the 100.
Wow.
My name is Dontino Bond. I did the 200, 100, 4x4, and high jump.
Thanks, Dontino.
My name is Jamar Clark. I did shot put, disc, and 4x1.
My name is Omariana Seals. I did the 100, 200, long jump, 100 hurdles, and at state I did the 200 hurdles.
So, Ms. Seals, did you bring your medal tonight?
No.
Congratulations.
My name is Chloe Rios, and I do discus, 4x4, 4x1, and the 100.
Great.
My name is Alexis Bradford, and I did the 4x1 discus and shot put.
Okay.
My name is Hayden Bradford. I did the 1600, 2400, 800, and 4x4, and long jump.
All in
And
one
high
night?
jump.
You did all that in one night for
No,
each
I
meet?
threw out all the meets.
Oh, okay. I haven't walked 2,400 meters in a while, so,
It's very hard to run against
Yeah.
other people.
yeah, it's extremely hard to walk, too.
I'm camera shy, but my name's Amaya Claire. I did the 400 meter hurdles, long jump, and the 4x1 and the 400. If I didn't say that already.
Okay.
My name is Morgan Smith, and I did 4x1 relay.
So, thank you all so much. Sure. Why don't we have somebody else do a photo?
Absolutely.
Who? Andy?
We need,
Want to get a couple board members to go up and get a photo with them?
yes, to tweet out for all of them.
Peter did the 4x1, right? Peter did the 4x1 or the 4x1?
You're fine. You're fine. A little bit more this one. There we go. All right.
Well, they look terrific.
Yeah,
A little
wonderful.
more. Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. In 3, 2, and 1. All right. That'll work.
So, all of you, we want to say we're just so proud of your effort, and thank you for taking time to come down and let us recognize you. The privilege is really ours, Coach. Thank you for all your work. I know this has not been an easy year, so we look forward to seeing you back next fall and work hard this summer at both your athletics and your getting ready for the next year of academics.
I have to ask, how many of you are registered in our system? That's your homework. Go home and find out if you're registered, and if not, tell your parents, get me registered.
Reggie's like, He didn't know. Dr. Rose.
So we truly, all of you in middle school track, how many eighth graders do I see? And seventh graders? And sixth graders? So, it is our hope to look at be doing some renovations to the high school facility over the course of the next couple of years. So, hopefully you'll have, a decent track to run on. Your coach can probably take you to one of the tracks around town with cinders. Mr. Heater, who got his picture taken with you, ran on cinders. So, cinders are black rocks. They're little black rocks, and they used to make up tracks all over. So, you guys, anybody have any questions for the board? No questions? Hey, have a great summer, okay? Thank you. Parents, thank you. Caregivers, thank you. Thank you for taking time. So we are on to the George and Frances Ball Foundation. Mr. Kinghorn and you guys,
Kelsey and Courtney.
Mrs. Zimmerman, Ms. Arrington, are you guys coming up? Or are you staying over there?
I think they're going to stay.
Tom, I guess you're on your own.
Okay. Well, they're not far away though, right? So I guess what I wanted to start with is introducing Courtney Zimmerman and Kelsey Harrington, part of the Ball State, part of the George and Frances Ball Foundation staff, key players in all the effort that we've been involved in on this and every project. What we wanted to share today was some information on the Promised Neighborhood request that was submitted. This is a $30 million attempt at getting funded to do some incredible things in a part of Muncie. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of background on it. For those of you that may be familiar with the name Jeff Canada, so he is the author of the Harlem Children's Zone in New York City. Started with an area in Harlem of about 24 blocks. Today they manage 97 blocks in an incredible education-related endeavor that has changed the face of that part of the city. And the goal was a bold one, and that was for every child in the Harlem Children's Zone to graduate from college. And the record of success is more than just impressive. So I guess for me at least, and I recommend for you, if you ever are struggling with whatever you're confronting in the educational environment, go to YouTube and watch one of his interviews or one of his speeches, and you'll come away excited about whatever it is that you're planning to try to achieve. So Jeff has been to Muncie and made presentations. I don't know if some of you had a chance to see him, but I've had a chance to see him then and in several other locations in Indianapolis and others, and he's done a fabulous job. But he is the inspiration for the federal government's move to the Promised Neighborhood approach. So that is the kind of the background that we have to look forward to. So I was going to say next slide, but I guess I'm in charge of that. So, so actually Leanne, as she always does, pays attention to what kind of funding might be out there and what opportunities to improve the system are there. And she called and wanted to know if we'd had any interest in being involved in this kind of a project. And it didn't take 2 seconds to say yes, because of the potential opportunity here. And so with her encouragement, we looked at the regulations, the guidelines that had to be filled out for the grant, and became obvious that we needed someone who was a qualified recipient and universities are part of that group. And so we got involved with the university, and they joined in and are, became a key player. The other thing about this was, Leanne, was this at the end of January when we had this first conversation?
Yes.
Just announced. And the application was due March 5th. So a lot of people just threw up their hands and said, well, this is impossible. But Leanne didn't. And she knew of a lady by the name of Jane Weichel. And Jane, turns out, is an accomplished grant writer. And she had experience in Ohio with a Promised Neighborhood successful grant. And so she brought a lot of tools to the table. So with this group, we knew that that was a good place to start, but only the beginning. And so the next slide shows you some of the background. So what is a Promised Neighborhood? It's based on information and data that describes a neighborhood. Not every neighborhood in America qualifies. And so we started by going through a rather elaborate analysis of the data related to various neighborhoods in the Muncie community. And based on that data and the characteristics of a Promised Neighborhood are these. In the lower left-hand side, you can see these are challenged neighborhoods. They've experienced economic distress, distress that involves low graduation rates, stressful situations having to do with the economics in the neighborhood, in family situations, levels of crime that are something that are challenging. And so a whole variety of those factors describe a Promised Neighborhood. And in order to even be considered, the reviewers have to be convinced that you qualify. And so we provided a number of data sets that provided the background for this this proposal. And I'll share a little bit with you about it. The other thing is that nobody can accomplish what we're talking about or even part of it alone. So it involves the entire community coming together. And so remember, we were on a very short time schedule. And so working together, that kind of a guiding group was able to pull together in about a 3-day period of time, about 50 organizations from this community to hear about what the possibilities are and decide if they could participate given this very tight time schedule. And so after they heard the story, 25 of these community organizations, and remember, Muncie is really blessed with lots of different nonprofits, ready to be of service, deeply committed to the community. And so that's an advantage that we have and we had in this situation that was very important. And so 25 of the organizations, and in addition to those that could not participate, they wrote letters of support and so forth behind this proposal. So, you hear about collective impact. And what's that all about? This is the perfect picture of collective impact. Lots of times you find organizations that are working on important things, but it takes a lot of time to collaborate and to coordinate. And that always does not happen. But here we find, over to the right, you see the picture that shows everybody is on the same page to accomplish the same objectives to improve the Promised Neighborhoods. And this is the $30 million ask that we have underway. So what did we build? How did we build this in such a short period of time? Well, you can see the Muncie Community Schools, the strategic and innovation plan. If we had not had your good work to start with, we would have been in a very difficult situation. But we did have the strategic plan that has the cradle to career. That's the other thing. this promised neighborhood concept is all built around cradle to career. It's not K-12 or early child, it's the full spectrum. And if you don't address the full spectrum, you don't qualify. The other thing that we had is what you see in the lower part there, and that is George and Francis Foundation has been involved for a while in developing a proactive strategy. And in doing that, we studied about 130 other communities across the country. These are generally Strive Together network communities or Lumina Foundation type communities. And after all of that study, we adopted this cradle to career kind of an approach where at each step along the way, you see those circles, each one of those represents a step along the way. And we have leaders at each of those steps. And within each of the circles there, there's an ecosystem that works together to try to achieve objectives at each of those steps along that. So we had both of these studies and documents and plans put together, and we combined them to put together the plan. So this is Muncie, Indiana, and you can see colored in gray are the promised neighborhood areas, those that qualified. And there are some characteristics that I'll share. Remember, this is a 100-page document. We're going to do this in, I hope, less than 15 minutes. And so I won't take you through all of it, but perhaps you can see, for instance, to the far left, the Muncie Promised Neighborhood. The characteristics of that neighborhood include things like, you see the first circle there, percent of households with single parent householder. At 36%, that's pretty high compared with the general population. You can see over to the right, the similar populations in Indiana and the United States. The median household income at $31,000 compared with the state at substantially more than that is an indication of a struggle that people have. The percent of adults ages 25 and over that have a high school diploma or less at 57% is substantially a higher percentage than you'd find in the general community. This rest of Muncie column, the reason I'm not focusing on that is because that includes Ball State University, and the unemployment level is high there, of course, as it should be, and the incomes level, since they're not working there. So that skews the data some. So it's better to compare what you see with the promised neighborhood with the state of Indiana and so forth. You can see it, given the COVID and all that, the percentage of households in this area without internet connection at 28% is substantially higher than most every other place that you'll find. And so that's an area that I know the school board has already been focused on, and we need to continue to move forward on remedying that. Here's some other data. You can see now that they're located by elementary school area, and the economically disadvantaged is pretty much built off of the free and reduced lunch mathematics. And you can see that the percentage of those families in those areas that are economically disadvantaged is pretty high. And we believe that this should catch the attention of those individuals who are reviewing our request. And you can look at it two ways. This is an opportunity. It's a challenge, yes, but it provides an opportunity for us to change that. That's what we're all here for, and what we all want to achieve. So after we went through the entire drill, there are 12 outcome areas. There are 30 indicators that measure current status and will measure future success. And there are 57 solutions. Good news is I'm not going to go through all 30 indicators or 57 solutions today, but I do want to share what the objectives are for the Promised Neighborhood approach. And this shows the 12. So they're not unique or unusual, and that is children ready for kindergarten when they enter school. Third grade reading at the levels that make sense. Middle school math, high school graduation, having success either being ready for a career or post-secondary education. And then having a living wage job through whatever means you present yourself to the employment world. And then in addition to that, you can see that students have social and emotional supports that they need. That's something you don't find on every one of the points of measurement, but has to do with student behavior in the classroom. And that's a manifestation of what happens at the home. And so that's an area that needs to have attention to be successful. And then students, of course, need to have the kind of technologies that are needed in the current and future environment at much different levels. Then there's a whole other section having to do with the family and the community. And you can see that, I'm not sure if you can read that very well or not, but you can see that students live in a safe community. That makes sense. Families and communities, community members support one another in the building of strong neighborhoods. Students and residents are healthy. You know, if you're sick or you're starving, you can't do a very good job of learning. And so those kind of supports are also involved there. So these are the kind of outcomes that are measurable, that are part of this process and are part of the success story that we hope to achieve. Here are a few examples of the data-centered approach, data-driven indicators. And you know, students with access to the internet is measurable. Students reading at grade level is measurable. And so the household incomes, those are all kind of measurable things that have to do with success or the lack of it. And then family and community indicators, you see the list there. So these are representative, these 6 are representative of the 30 different measures that are part of this whole process. And then, you know, we've had a number of conversations where we've said, even if we don't get this grant, we need to accomplish an awful lot of these objectives. And so there are these objectives that are already underway. And ask Leanne to comment on these, but Family Navigators is one of the things that we're talking about very actively right now. Internet infrastructure, that's something that is in conversations all over the state in various regions, because people know that that has to change, not only for the school environment, but for the work environment. And so there are, you know, statewide efforts that are already involved there. A data system. One of the things we found out is disaggregated data is very important if you're going to understand the nuances of what kind of changes you need to make and where you need to make those changes. And so now Leanne already has underway a new data system that would make our work far more sophisticated than it has been in the past.
Well, we have to give Gerald Cassidy at Ball State University all the credit for that.
Yeah, well, they're working together, but absolutely. And so early childhood by 5 is already underway with a very comprehensive study that will look further in depth than we've ever looked before at the strategies that we need to be involved in to make a difference. And then high quality after school programs, you know, if you listen to anything that Jeff Canada talks about, he talks about the school day shouldn't be half days or shouldn't be just 3 o'clock. They need to be the full day. There's too much effort that needs to be put into this, and I know some of the things like that are already underway with supports like YMCA, and by the way, you're combining with YMCA and that new future site, I think is just terrific. Provides all kind of new opportunities that working together will provide. And the Boys and Girls Club and all of these agencies that you're working with can add to that value. Some things that are maybe more expensive that have to do with built-in early warning systems in tandem with navigators. I don't know, Leanne, if you've talked about the City Connects program, but there's some pretty impressive results from that. And so expanding 21st Century Scholars programs. Golly, that's one of the great advantages we have here in Indiana. You know, who would believe that you could have somebody pay for your college education if you just abided by a few regulations, and so that's a great advantage to lots of people. And then, you know, neighborhood level interventions. Those are very important, but very difficult to achieve, I think. And so I know that there are some plans underway as a part of this program. And then everything about the Promised Neighborhood is results-based. And that's a discipline that not always do we bring to the table. So here's a new improved model of the cradle to career approach that ties all of these things together. And you can see that, you know, by 5 is leading the early childhood. United Way is leading the early reading and so forth. But of course, Muncie Community Schools is at the center of every one of those across that spectrum. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions. It's kind of like, what did we learn? This was a difficult task, but I think we learned an awful lot. A lot we can share with the community and build change based on that and build opportunity. And so here are some of the things that we've learned. And so with that, I'd be happy to respond to questions, or Courtney and Kelsey and Leanne would be happy to.
Remind me, Tom, did they change the deadline for submittal of this?
Yes.
Okay.
We were ready on the 5th.
On the 5th.
To submit. We were about to push the button, and Leanne got a almost unprecedented note from the Department of Education, and they extended it for
Another 30 or 30, 40 days.
yeah, something like that. So we had a chance to go back and look at it, but you know, we were half disappointed because now we had a chance to have more competition than the people that couldn't get it done in the days ahead. But yes.
So do we have a projected decision date from the department?
They've talked about around August or September is when they will announce it. But I think our biggest takeaway, I mean, it would be wonderful if the U.S. Department of Ed funded this initiative, but they're only going to give about 4, 5, 6 grants across the entire country. And some districts that, or some sites that had already were awarded and their 5-year timeline was up, they were able to reapply. So they had some very established programs already taking place. So while we're still hopeful, our takeaway is this is something we can still do. I mean, it will be harder to achieve without the additional funding, but we really are looking at different ways to connect and try to bring this to life, even if we don't get that letter that says we've been awarded that grant.
And the 30 million is all that's in the pot, or that's per recipient?
Yes, is it?
It's over 5 years, right?
It's for 5 years.
It's for 5 years.
But it's per
recipients.
year, was that, or per 5 years?
It's 30 million over.
30 million total.
See, I'm really getting greedy now, trying to remember.
Yeah, it's 30 million over 5 years, but it's 30 million per
Yeah.
recipient.
Yes,
So it's got a finite deadline to using the funds.
yes,
Yes.
With the possibility of renewal? or-
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Love it.
So on the 6 million per year, is that the federal grant
That's-
portion?
Right,
And then we have a matching portion?
Correct.
Correct?
right.
And do we have to match it dollar for dollar?
We do. Now, it's a combination. George and Francis, as 10% of it is required to be cash.
Right.
And with our board support, we agreed to do that. The rest of it, a lot of it is in-kind match.
Right.
And so, for instance, Muncie Community Schools is a major part of that in-kind match, as well as our other partners put in the in-kind, yes.
So in terms of also in lessons learned, and I think I love the Promised Neighborhood approach. I think it's absolutely essential. But Leanne, if you could speak to, I mean, I'm assuming this has also helped us in the last few weeks as we've put together partnerships with lots of agencies for the state.
Well, for example, the state had the learning loss grant, the 1008 learning loss grant for $150 million for 2 years. And so we took some of the same partners that we worked with to apply for this grant, and we said, that activity that you wanted to do, if we get this grant, let's go at it through the state. And so the YMCA, the way that they offer the extended time care for our families, and they're at Grissom this year doing Grissom Gold, they were awarded that to be able to implement at Southview and at East Washington Academy. Boys and Girls Club, we worked with them to submit an application, and they'll be offering additional program. We did that with moms as well, and they have some neighborhood tutoring programs that they implement. And we're talking about family navigators to help steer. It's hard for families. They have so many different systems to try to learn. So if we want our schools to truly be the education or the hub of the neighborhoods, we need somebody that's there that can help navigate. And so Marian University brought together 30+ districts for something called City Connects, which is really training on the data support system for a family navigator. So they received that, and Muncie is part of it. So we're piecemealing, finding places that will help us support this. And always, our foundations are extremely generous to Muncie Community Schools. And we could not do this work without our foundations. They just bring a wealth of resources to help us.
For example, when we were working, Leanne had called, and I was down at the office, and it was Monday before March 5th. And I spoke to Mr. Kinghorn at about 9:30 that night after I talked to Courtney at, I don't know, about 8:30 as I was working through a document. I mean, and so they were all working and talking. I guess that would have been the first part of March as we were all scrambling to get something pulled together by that Thursday. And as Tom said, we were ready to go on the 5th. And I can remember that day when Leanne let me know she'd received that text, and there was that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm right on the edge here and the rug's been pulled out. So going back to the issue of the collaboration, the funding, has that been announced yet, or are we not permitted to talk about it?
Yes, that has now been announced
Okay.
we have 8 different partners that put in proposals that are going to provide different services for Muncie Community School students, all the way from the support for direct support for kids, for summer programs or tutoring, to NIET will come in and work with our teachers as they disaggregate data and determine best strategies to use with some of the data results, to having some college and career coaches who are going to be helping a group of seniors who don't have maybe the support structure to help them with their college applications and scholarships and college visits, all those requirements. So we really tried to put together a list to be able to help, again, from as early of students as we could all the way to help them be ready to graduate. And so
How
we're
many
excited
total,
for that.
how many total agencies did we work with in terms of putting it in front of the state?
We worked with all 8,
And how many got awarded?
all 8.
Okay.
Yes.
terrific.
Ball State University, theirs is a $2.5 million grant. Theirs was the largest of our group.
And-
But I'll add up all the total amounts, and I'll let you guys know how much that looked.
And much of that, as I read it, is, piecemeal is a word I guess I don't like entirely, but derivative, derivative of the work we're doing here. I mean, I think it all fits in, so thank you for your leadership and the foundation's leadership in pulling together the data and putting together and being a leading partner in the application of the grant. We would absolutely, it is truly an opportunity for profound community change. And so thank you so much. Is there any other questions? You guys have anything?
I have a question. Is this document public? Is that available somewhere?
It's on our
I can
website.
send it to you, we just got it, so I can send it.
Okay, great.
The application?
Oh, do you want
You
the,
mean our application?
or?
No, I
the-
mean,
This.
the presentation
Oh,
information.
I can
Okay.
send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But when you add, I'd like to see the application if that's possible.
Absolutely.
It's,
Yeah.
it's really instructive. I mean, if you
You said
bear
it's
through
only
the 100 pages, you learn a
150
lot.
pages long, is that all?
Pardon me?
150 pages long, is that all?
I don't think it's 150, it's 100 and less than that.
Less than that, okay.
115,
Okay.
yes.
We do have a full document that was submitted to the U.S. Department of Education through Ball State's office, so it has all of the forms that are required to be submitted, that if you're like me, it's like reading tax information, and it's kind of complicated, but we'll see, we can send the full document. We've kind of been making our rounds with some of our partners for our Creative Spirit work to share kind of this recap, and then we were going to send it out to all shortly, so.
And I would also like to just, add that we have great leaders in Muncie Community Schools, Chuck and Dylin and Dia, many great leaders. Rhonda, it wouldn't be possible for us, every time we come together with a plan, it means going back to our team and saying, okay, folks, here are a few more things that we're going to be working on or making sure we focus on this. And so just for example, with all the different partners with the additional tutoring, and Dia is the one who meets regularly with them on a monthly basis to make sure that, they're doing what they said they were going to do, that the programming is quality programming. So all of that takes a lot of effort on our part, but we also know that, it's well worth every minute of it because it's good for our students. But it takes a lot of effort, and I just wanted to recognize our team.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything additional for Mr. Kinghorn?
I guess I don't want to pass up this opportunity to thank members of the board here. These are assignments you didn't need, but you're giving to the community, and I've not had before, and maybe not again, the chance to say thank you. So
Thank you.
that's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks to George and Francis. So for anyone watching tonight or anyone here, if you would like to have additional information concerning the Promised Neighborhood grants, please reach out to central office and we'll be happy to provide that. And along those same lines, I know, and please share this as widely as possible, that as we enter this phase of the last 14 months, there are so many opportunities available for our students and our families And at times, I'm sure it feels overwhelming, and there may be a tendency to simply throw up your hands and say, I can't keep track of everything that's going on. And but I would just urge all of you to take advantage of the summer learning loss programs through MCS and through our partners. And if you have any questions whatsoever concerning what is available and what might be appropriate for the students in your family, please reach out to Dr. Kwiatkowski, central office. Her email's on our website. And I don't mean to put that all on you, but we will get you answers as to what programming might be available given your times. But please, please, please take advantage of those opportunities that are out there for this summer to make up for the learning loss that undoubtedly has occurred in a lot of families through no fault of anybody's other than the circumstances that we've all been enduring. So please take advantage. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kwiatkowski.
Just a few announcements. Michelle Beatty she's our music teacher at Westview Elementary School, an exceptional music teacher, and she has a couple recognitions. She's a quarter finalist for the 2022 Grammy Music Educator Award, and she also is a 2022 Music Education Award Legacy Status candidate. And so we're always very proud of Michelle and the recognition that she gets. She just does amazing work with students. We were all at graduation last night. I just want to say again, congratulations to our graduates and to our high school team. You did a great job with graduation. And Jim already mentioned our summer programs. We're in full swing. We are seeing, some fun things going on with our students, and they're learning while they're enjoying themselves. So that's exactly what we wanted to happen. And then lastly, there's someone else I'd like to recognize in our audience tonight, and that's Rochelle Spearman. Go ahead, Rochelle, you may stand for a moment. So Rochelle is actually doing her internship for Ball State University under DIA this summer, and she is an interventionist with us at Southview Elementary. And so a tremendous leader, does great work, and we thank you for all that you're doing for us.
Thank you, Rochelle. Any questions for Dr. K?
So last night's graduation, there were amazing stats given by the principal.
Mm-hmm.
We ought to figure out how to convey that.
Okay, absolutely.
Did I hear correctly, the 4.0 students, the number? What was the number?
Do you know,
It was over
Yes.
30, 4.0. That's incredible, folks. That's incredible.
How about the scholarship money?
And the scholarship was phenomenal.
$5.8 million.
Yeah,
That's amazing. That's awesome.
yeah. So, great stats. Yeah, thank you.
Any additional questions for Dr. K? Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda, items A through F. Any questions concerning items in the consent agenda? Again, we'll thank our donors who consistently remember Muncie Community Schools, and they're listed in the donations. If there are no additional questions, would entertain a motion to approve items A through F on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Been moved and seconded. I'm going to count Natasha's as a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Diane?
Okay, good evening, everyone. In your packet is attachment number 267 regarding administrators' personal days. Yearly, MCS administrators are granted 3 personal days. Administrators must use all of their 3 days within the school year or lose them. Some administrators have either lost the days or felt very compelled to go ahead and take the personal days in order not to lose them. I ask that the board consider allowing administrators to roll over any unused personal days to sick days.
Okay, and this, Dr. Kwiatkowski had asked me about this a couple weeks ago, and everybody on the team has been so incredible in the past year, and it was brought to my attention that we have these personal days and that those disappear. And it doesn't make any sense to me to just have people feeling like they have to take days for the sake of using them. So I encourage them to put this in front of the board as a motion to roll those to sick days. So,
And may I also say that this is really a common practice in most school districts, that they roll over rather than just losing them. And, you know, at the very end, it's not that the board buys back sick days or anything. So it's just, you know, people may end up losing them at the end anyway, but it just makes some people feel better that, boy, if anything happened, I would have some of them.
Absolutely. And another thing is that currently support staff and certified staff, with the exception of administrators, are allowed to roll over any unused personal days to sick days.
so we have a recommendation. Any questions?
This is a one-time rollover or?
No,
for
this
every
would
year?
be, it was,
Continual.
it was just really a few years ago that this policy was put in place for administrators. So we're really backtracking it
You get
to-
3 personal days per year and to roll over as unused into sick days. I mean, my mother-in-law was a teacher and ended up with a chronic illness, and, you know, thank goodness she had significant sick days at that time in her life. So I have, you know, certainly personal appreciation for this request.
Move approval.
Okay, we've got a motion. Any additional questions? Would entertain a second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll show that passed. We are on to the incredibly interesting waiver of protected taxes. So, Mr. Jerome, I'm not denigrating what you do.
Yeah, I know you're so excited, and so am I.
Yeah. I've been playing all day long. I said, when are we going to get to waiver of protected
When are we
taxes?
going to get the waiver?
Finally.
I presented in front of you the the approval of the waiver of implementation of protected taxes. And what that really means is, because Muncie Schools has such a high level of tax caps that we incur, I think last year, Muncie's data was a little, I think we were in the top 4 or 5 school districts in the state of Indiana with tax caps. And what that means for ours this year, it's a little over $9 million on the calculation. These calculations were all prepared by the Department of Local Government Finance. They're the group from the state of Indiana that approves our budget, approves our spending appropriations. So they now make these calculations for us. They send it to us and ask us if we want to go ahead and allow this waiver, because what that does for us from a practical standpoint, it allows us to spread that tax cap over the other tax-supported funds. And in our case, it's really just the operation fund and debt service are the 2 funds that really bear the tax rate. And because you have to be able to pay your debt service, you're really allowing yourself to move money or transfer money from the debt service into operation fund, because your operation fund bears the brunt of the tax cap. So what this does, and you can see that with supporting documentation, the DLGF has made the calculation. They're saying that we have over 75% of our operation fund is impacted because of this calculation. So therefore, we definitely qualify because you had to be at least over 10% of your 10% of your operation fund had to be impacted. We're over 75%. So we definitely qualify. So we're just asking permission to approve that tonight, approve this waiver of implementation of protected taxes.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Jerome?
Just a quick one. Do you have to do this every year?
Well,
Because you got to wait for the conditions.
yeah, it would usually always be in the springtime, April or May, this time of year, that they would make the calculation for you, or they would send you the application for the waiver. They streamlined it. I don't know if it was because of COVID, where they decided to do it themselves and then send it to us, and say, hey, you guys qualify or you don't. Do you want to do it or not? So it takes out some of the guesswork when they're doing the calculations. So.
Any additional questions?
Brad, for the benefit of anyone that's watching, can you explain what the tax cap is?
Sure.
And that it's not something that we're setting?
Right. The tax cap, it's really for the benefit of the homeowners, business owners. Their property can only be assessed up to a certain point each year. It can only increase so much per year. So this cap, if you will, their property is capped, and therefore their assessed valuation of their property can't just continue to rise higher than that. So therefore, it helps the individual property owner. For someone like a school district or perhaps a unit of city government, those taxes, however, can't just keep increasing. So therefore, in our case, we have a really large tax cap we have to deal with. So what that means is we do not receive the full amount of the property taxes that, per the calculation, we would normally get. And that's because a lot of individuals, business owners in the community have this cap available to them. So that's really how we're in that situation. It's developed over time. It's not happened recently. It's happened over many, many years. If you have a lot of assessed valuation growth, then that continues to spread the tax base over more and more taxpayers. So when you have these particular rules or laws were put in place, I think approximately 2008 or 9 during the Mitch Daniels administration, when that's I think how it all started in Indianapolis along Meridian Street. There was a lot of properties that all of a sudden were reassessed, and they hit these ginormous tax bills, if you will, that they were going to have. And that, I think, prompted some of the reform that came down at that point.
Yeah, I think part of what we heard from Tom and that's kind of the full circle of this, because when you take away the industry that is going to be assessed at such a high value that generates a lot of tax money, and now we don't have that, it just puts us at that disadvantage because it limits the amount of taxes we're going to get despite the assessed value even. So I think that's the exciting part about what the system and the foundation and the work that's the hard work that's being done to systemically change the trajectory that's going to attract people here, which ultimately leads to funding. It ultimately leads to what it's supposed to be, which is the residents in your community pay the taxes that support the educational needs we have. So
Correct. So in this, the tax caps were actually set by the legislature, and as Mr. Jerome mentioned, 15 years ago or so, it then became part of the Indiana Constitution as part of the amendment process 2009 or so. So it's very difficult to unwind at this point because it is a part of the Indiana Constitution. It was passed by the legislature and then adopted as part of the Constitution with the understanding that it would serve to affect property tax relief. The downside of that, which a few people foresaw, was that you would see parts of the state of Indiana that had, as Mr. Heater indicated, traditionally had broad industrial economies, that they were going to face some challenges. And when you're relying solely on residential and small business and agriculture, which are all subject to caps, question from me, DLGF, Department of Local Government Finance, does this in a way that evaluates the debt service fund to ensure that we're not compromising our debt service ability. And so we're transferring funds to operations, which is running the buses, those sorts of things, but we're not doing so in a manner that affects our ability to service debt.
Yeah, that is correct. That's a correct statement. And just because we're given this permission, we really will not make any final transfers until you get to the tail end of December of 2021 to make sure you've received all your whatever expected net property taxes you're going to get. Then you can make the final determination what final what final transfers do you need to make into operations?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Durham, for that explanation and for everyone at home. And you have my apologies for suggesting facetiously that I'd look forward to this really all day. With that, do we have a motion to approve the waiver?
So moved.
Been moved. Do I hear a second? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Dialogue aboard and future recommendations. I don't have anything. Does anybody else have anything? Anybody have anything?
Great job last night.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All that you all have done for our students.
It's amazing.
Last night, when they told us not to buckle our knees, we faint.
Right.
And, it was great. I think it was wonderful considering what COVID is.
And the speeches from the students were incredible. I mean, they did a wonderful job. Wonderful job. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anything? Okay, just by show of hands, I know that Mr. Heater, myself, and Mrs. Bales are out of town on the 18th for the work
We may not have
session.
a working session, we may just make that,
Yeah,
because
if anybody can attend for the WISE, it's really a collaborative session to listen and be heard. So if anybody's available, I know that Leanne's going to have leadership there.
we'll just have a few board members.
Okay. Okay, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to be heard on that. So with that, unless there's anything further, we're, I think, prepared to adjourn. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Andy, do we have any media? That's a different word. Anything else? Okay. Adjourn? Want to move? Somebody want to move? Been moved and do I hear, I'll second. Second. All those in favor signify. We will be adjourned. Thank you.